Hello, and welcome back to my basement. This is Jeremiah Wolf. I want to talk about AI today, and this is a huge topic, so I really can't do it justice. I already recorded a video. It was so long, and there's just so much to talk about. There's so much to cover. I can't do it to you guys. So I'm gonna be quick. A few quick points. First off, what is AI? Well, what it's not is intelligent. And it's vital that you understand what AI is. AI uses probabilities to pick words. It is a language model. Even the AI that does math isn't doing math. This is, you got to get your head around this. It picks words. When you watch AI do math, it's not doing calculations. It's picking the right words based on its training data. Here's the problem that you input. It looks through its training data to find the similar components, builds vectors to point to different things, uses that to build probabilities based on this is the most likely next thing to output, this is the next most likely, so on. And then it picks the most probable word or phrase or I don't know, math symbol, and then outputs it. It's all about probability word picking. Okay, it picks words. It doesn't think. There's no thinking. You have to get your head around this. There's a guy I work with. He asked, and he is this AI evangelist. He uses it all the time. And I'll be honest, it kind of concerns me how much he uses it because because it was right about a couple things. He trusts it a little more than I'm comfortable with. But the one thing that he always uses as an example is he gave it the dimensions of his room. He gave it the brand and model of his speakers, and it told him where to place his surround sound speakers to have the best experience. And because it was accurate enough, he really, really trusts it. And I find that concerning. But what you have to understand is, while it may have given him a good layout for his surround sound speakers, it never spent any time thinking about it. It took what he input and then used that to build connections between its training data, and then based on those connections, it picks words to output that are most likely to be output. And you can tweak that. So if you want to write code, you tell it to be the exact. I want the exact next most probable word. That works for coding. You want natural language. You pick words that are very close to the most probable, but you give it some leeway in what it can pick. Then it sounds a little more natural. You want it to be creative. You give it way more leeway, and it picks words that are, again, within the range of probable, but not highly probable. So it starts picking a lot more different words, and it can sound creative or it can just sound insane. But that's how it works. It's a language model. It's a word picker. That's what AI is. Keep that in mind. So that's what AI is. AI is a word picker. Is it smart? No, not at all. And any AI researcher will tell you it's not smart. It's just an algorithm for picking words. Is it going to take your job? Well, think about it. What you do, can I go look up what you do with relative ease? Let's say you're a junior network engineer, okay? Doing stuff at a CCNA and below level. AI could almost certainly replace you. Writing configs, if you write configs, no problem. Doing entry-level troubleshooting, no problem. There is so much data out there that it has trained on in that entry-level space. I mean, think about this. I was just talking with someone on LinkedIn. They messaged me. They're looking for some good training tips or some training material for ICE, Cisco ICE. And my response was, hey, actually, I was just looking for training for Cisco ICE. If you find anything good, let me know. Because the only thing that's out there is the official documentation, which is not great, and the official study guide for the certification, which is 6 years old at this point, 6 years old. So, yeah, you want to ask AI about something about Cisco ICE, you're not going to get a good answer. You might get lucky, and it'll be either accurate or accurate enough to kind of get you start looking in the right place, but very unlikely that anything but the most basic stuff is going to be in there. On the other hand, oh, there goes my dog. On the other hand, you want some basic EIGRP information? Well, guess what? Basic EIGRP, basic OSPF, basic BGP, it's been covered everywhere. You want, again, Cisco ICE training, it's really hard to find. You want CCNA training? Oh my God, there is an endless supply. An endless supply. Everybody's got a course. Everybody's written a book. So AI can be trained on all that low-level stuff. It's easy for it. But the mid-tier stuff and the senior tier stuff, it just can't do it because it can't be trained on that. There's not enough for it to train on. So is it going to take your job? If you're entry level, honestly, there's a good chance. Because it's going to be cheaper for your company to either build its own AI system, hardware, or to, subscribe and hand your job over to an AI if you're entry level. Like that is a real thing. So we'll talk more about that in a minute. So I said, AI is a word picker. It can do entry level stuff, but is it getting smarter? Is it going to take over your senior level role? No, not with large language models. We are effectively butting up against the upper limit. If this is the upper limit of LLM intelligence, we are right there. I was on a call with Cisco a few weeks ago. Now, Cisco, in the background, has been building a troubleshooting and configuration AI tool. They released it for closed alpha a few months ago. And then a few weeks ago, we were on a call talking about the results of that alpha. And the takeaway was that the engineers were largely disappointed with the results. It did not perform the way they had hoped. And there's a big problem with that. So they said they got it to like 85 or 90% of where it needs to be. But it just gives wrong answers all the time. I mean, 10 to 15% of the time, if it's wrong, I can't use that for my job. I can't use that in a production network if it's wrong 10 to 15% of the time. If it's some really weird problem, I might ask AI and hopefully it'll get me moving in the right direction. But again, if it's wrong that often, I can't trust that. I can't use that. And they recognize that. They trained the AI off of official documentation, the Cisco community posts, the TAC knowledge base, TAC logs. They wouldn't tell us everything that they trained it off of, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were scraping, r/Cisco and r/networking on Reddit or, what, I don't know. I have no idea, but because they wouldn't tell us. But they definitely trained it on all the official Cisco stuff, probably a bit more. And that's as far as they could get. They'd already trained it on everything. And that's as far as they could get, 85, 90%. Now, what the engineer said, their lead engineer who came from, I can't remember which, came from one of those autonomous driving companies. Cisco picked him up. What he was saying, and this was really interesting. I didn't know this. He said, okay, so let's say 90%. So we got it from 0 to 90% using 100 units of training data. Okay, just arbitrary number, 100 units of training data to go from 0 to 90. All right, 100. To go from 90 to 91, 100. To go from 91 to 92, you basically have to match everything you did before. So 200. 92 to 93, 400, 4 to 5. So you get in the picture. There's not enough data to get to 100%. We can't train. There's not enough to train it to get to 100%. There's not enough to get it to 95%. And because it took it already, months and months and months of training to get to 90%, that means every additional percentage point, it's going to take, let's say it took 6 months of training time, compute time, to get to 90%. That's 6 more months to get from 90 to 91. That's a year to go from 91 to 92. It's 2 years to go from 92 to 93. So we don't have time to do it. We don't have the material to train. Now, so we see these AI researchers, we see these big companies now writing algorithms that generate training data. That could probably work for math, maybe some other stuff. But how do you just generate training data? You know what I mean? It's a real problem. It is a real problem. And there are some people who are being honest within the industry, but they immediately are blacklisted and lose their jobs, who say, "Oh, we've reached the limit." So is AI getting smarter? Is it going to take those tier 3 and advanced senior positions? I don't think so. I just don't think it can. So, what's the natural progression of that? So think it through. So you work in an organization. Your organization has tier 1, 2, 3, and architect. 1, 2, 3, and art. Tier 1, they're gone. Sorry, you're gone. Tier 2, we're going to keep a couple of them, but most of you are gone. Tier 3, you're mostly safe. Tier 4, architect, you're safe. Okay. 5, 10, 15 years down the line. Tier 4, they're all retired. Tier 3 takes on Tier 4 roles. How are we going to backfill the roles? But it's a 5-year problem. It's a 10-year problem. It's not a today problem. So are corporations going to think about that when they start laying all these people off, thinking, how do we train people to be the tier 2, 3, and 4 when we've gotten rid of tier 1? They're not thinking about that. They don't care. They don't care. They care about the stock price. They care about their quarterly bonus. Like, that's just the truth. The longevity of a company doesn't matter. The quarterly stock price is what matters. Because that's their job. See the C-suite at any major corporation, if it's public, their job is to keep the investors happy this quarter. To keep that stock price high. We don't want people selling. We want people hanging on to that stock so that it keeps going up. The moment they start selling, it starts going down. So we want people holding on to it, keep that value up, and then we need to keep boosting it so they keep holding it. And that's how I get my bonus. That's how you get your stock options. That's how all that works. I say I get my bonus. I don't actually get anything like that. So that's the big problem with AI. It is going to replace tier 1 jobs. It absolutely will. Now, a few years ago, I speculated that it would actually gut out the middle, the tier 2 and maybe tier 3 a little bit. The tier 3 and tier 4 would be mostly safe. The tier 1, tier 2-ish safe, and the middle would be gone. And I was wrong about that. I don't think that's how it's going to happen. The low end is definitely going to be gutted. The mid will be reduced, the more senior will probably be safe. So yeah. And then the other thing to keep in mind is the other problem with AI. And this people bring this up, and they always like to point to the Industrial Revolution. And when people say, well, what happens with all the jobs? It's going to wreck the economy. And they say, well, we did this with the Industrial Revolution. All the people went to the city and got new jobs. Well, there's a big difference here, right? AI is taking all the jobs. It's not a combine or a tractor that's taking the plowing jobs and the picking jobs. It's taking all the jobs. And we don't need to move to the city to machine parts for tractors and combines. AI is doing those jobs too. All the jobs. So when you hear people who, frankly, I just think these are people who can't think things through, and they would probably say the same about me, frankly. When they say, well, we've been through this before. Yes, there'll be some disruption and it might be hard for a few years, but new jobs that we can't even imagine will be created. Not if AI is doing all the jobs. Right? Now look, I'm saying that AI can't do all the jobs. So I don't think that's going to happen. But it does create a real problem. If you're laying off all these people, there's multiple effects here. If I lay off all my tier 1 and half my tier 2, okay, there are now thousands and thousands and thousands of people out there eager to fill any role that I have. And they're going to spend all their time studying and labbing and doing anything they can, as long as they can hang on until they burn through their savings and they're living on the street, to try to get the skills to get your job. Right? So you're tier 3 and you're safe. But now there is tens of thousands of people gunning for your job. And they're willing to work for cheap because they desperately need something to put food on the table, to care for their family. So right now you're sitting pretty, you're making 120, 150 grand a year. But here's 1,000 people. They're willing to work for 50 grand a year. So what does that mean? That means there's now downward pressure on salaries. There's downward pressure on benefits. That means you're making less money. That means you're spending less money, which means now these businesses, which were keeping their tier 3 and their tier 4 guys, well, that business is making less money. Now, maybe you don't buy directly from the business, but their customers are other businesses who have customers of other businesses whose customers are consumers. It always comes down to consumers. Once people stop buying, then this company doesn't need this company's services, and this company doesn't need this company's services. So once you start laying people off, even though you are not a direct-to-consumer business, you will eventually feel that pain. So we get tons of people laid off because of AI. Now there's downward pressure in the salaries and benefits, and then companies start laying off their tier 3 and their tier 4 because there's less business, because there's less people buying things. I do not personally see how this turns out good. I really don't. Elon Musk says that we're going to see infinite wealth. Everyone will be mega rich. We'll all live lives of leisure because the AI and robots are going to do everything for us. And who's going to pay for the robot to do my job? Am I supposed to buy the robot? Well, I guess if I buy the robot, I could lease it out to a company, but then they would just go buy their own robot. So how's that work? Is the government going to just give me money? Well, how's the government have money to give me if no one's paying taxes because nobody has jobs? I know Elon Musk is often cited as being some sort of genius. If you look at what he's actually accomplished and what he's actually delivered on, he does hire some very smart people. He mostly just spouts bullshit and lies. I mean, let's just be honest. Full self-driving is 9 months away since 2012. The fully electric semi is going to transform our roads. What do they sell? Like 3 dozen of them? And then they just never spoke of it again? We'll be in Mars by 2025. Oh, that was billions of dollars of taxpayer money that has gone to nowhere. So yeah, Elon Musk. I don't put a whole lot of stock in anything he says. So anyway, that is my take on AI. It's important to understand it's not smart. It's a word picker. It really, even if that's true, it can take your job potentially. We're at the upper limits of how smart it's ever going to be. And the only outcome are economically probably pretty bit devastating. And I don't have answers. I mean, the only thing that I can envision, I don't see a free market solution to the devastation that AI is going to bring. I only see government intervention as being a solution, which right out of the gate pisses a lot of people off to even mention that. But the other thing too, let's just real quick. I'm already at 20 some minutes. You want to talk about government intervention? The other big problem about AI is the era of truth is now over. We are entering an era of truthlessness. Nothing is true and everything is true. If you look at what an open source AI image or video model can do running on your home computer, you could make video today on your home computer using open source tools that 10 years ago would have been believed in court. You could have blackmailed anybody with it. You could have proven anything. So because of that, you can no longer trust anything you see. Now look, there's still artifacts. There's still a little bit of giveaways, especially if it's longer than like 5 or 10 seconds. It's pretty easy to tell an AI video if it's longer than a few seconds, but that's a limited thing. That's limited. And I'm talking open source. So we're going to see the death of truth. AI, and we already see this right now with Grok. Elon Musk has a very specific political point of view, and his own AI has repeatedly said that he was spouting lies, so they had to go and reprogram Grok. So now it repeats his own personal political talking points, not what's true or real. It repeats a political point of view as if it's fact. And then you have like people like my friend who, because they have had good experience with AI, they now trust it to give them facts. And that's what we're going to see. We're going to see that we can no longer, everything's going to be AI. So every time you ask a question, you're going to get an AI answer, and we will no longer be able to trust anything we read as if we were really trusting it to begin with. But at least there was some semblance of there's some factual or mostly factual sources. That's going to be really brought into question now. Who do you believe? And then when in terms of images and video, you could literally have a video of a prominent figure doing the most heinous thing, and it could be completely true. And in a few years, they'll just be able to say, no, that was not true. It's AI. Prove it. Prove it's true. How? How do you prove it's true? The era of truth is over. So while I feel like AI is only going to bring ultimately economically hardship in this short-term pursuit of profit for the mega wealthy corporations and individuals, it's going to create economic devastation. And I think the only way to prevent that or to soften it is through government intervention. We're not able to have government intervention because the people in power can now create any narrative they want to ensure that the individuals that they want get elected. So it's effectively the end of true democracy. Again, if we ever really had it. But whatever we had, as close or far away from a true democracy as it was, that's gone. You look at Russia or North Korea. They convince the population with propaganda to believe anything, and the majority of people do believe it. I mean, this is the thing. You look at some of the things that the Russian the Russian leadership tells their people, and you think, oh God, the people know better. They know it's not. No, they believe it, and that's where we're headed. We're headed to a place where truth no longer exists, no longer matters, and this is really depressing, especially considering today is New Year's Eve. Happy New Year. I don't have good answers. I am genuinely concerned for the future of my country. I'm genuinely concerned for the future of my son. And I'm genuinely concerned for the future of my family, because while right now I feel like I'm in a pretty good position, I can't guarantee that I will be in 5 years. And AI is going to have a major part to play in that, I think. So sorry to be such a downer, but this is, I think it's a problem. And I think we need more and more people to truly understand what it is, what its limitations are, and to get out there and start exercising your ability to protect ourselves. Anyway, I am sure that a large number of you completely disagree with everything I'm saying, and so feel free. Tell me all about it in the comments. All right, till next time.